Hey everybody, Mac here. Welcome back to the show. What we have today is McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse, Superman of Earth-3. And I find it interesting because they're calling this Superman of Earth-3, but this is actually Ultraman from the Crime Syndicate. Actually, this is Ultraman from the recent Crime Syndicate limited series, and they're still calling him Superman, and I have to wonder if that's because, is there a licensing issue, a legal issue, that they can't produce it or sell it as Ultraman because of, Ultraman. Either way, here we have him. I believe this was a Target exclusive, and it is one of 4 figures. And it has a collect-to-build Starro up here, which we'll take a look at this piece once we get the box open. But if you flip around to the back, you can see that there are 3 other silhouetted figures that they're coming later down the line. Now, we saw him do this with the Batman Beyond line, and we can see that we have at least 1 female figure, which is more than likely going to be Superwoman, and then we have 2 more male figures that one of them at least is going to be Owlman. So the only other question is, what's the 4th one going to be? Is it the Ring, which is the Crime Syndicate version of the Green Lantern, or is it their version of Flash, who I forget what his name was. I think it's Johnny Quick. I can't remember. Both of them played a pretty big role in the limited series, so I'm curious to see who the 4th one is going to be. And of course, we have our collect-to-build Starro right here. And we also have the pretty promotional image of Ultraman going against Starro, which is more than likely going to be the trading card that's in the back. Now, because there is a collect-to-build figure with this, and it's a pretty beefy collect-to-build figure, we have our standard box. It's just a little bit bigger than what McFarlane usually puts out. But still, we have the big open window up front. We have the window up top so that the light can come down through. Window from the side. Superman of Earth-3. You saw Superman of Earth-3 on the bottom, the completed Starro over here. Superman of Earth-3 Crime Syndicate. And then you already saw the back. So that is our packaging. Like I said, this is Ultraman, so let's get this open and let's take a look at McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Ultraman Crime Syndicate of Earth-3. Okay, friends, here he is, Ultraman out of the box, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put the tape measure to him, because being a McFarlane figure, he should come in at 7 inches tall, but putting the tape measure next to him, we can see that to the top of his head, he is roughly 7¼ inches, but to the top of his windblown pompadour here, he is 7½ inches. So that does put him a little bit on the tall side, but that's okay, because he is a Superman character. Now let's bring him forward, let's take a look at him, and let's check out his sculpt and articulation. Okay, we're going to take a look at Ultraman, and we're going to look at his articulation, and we're going to start from the top and work our way down like we always do. His head has some real good tilt side to side. He can do a full 360 spin. He can look up pretty well, which is good for a flying figure. He can look down, not so much, but that's okay. His arms can come up past 90. They'll do a full 360 spin. He has that butterfly joint there in the shoulder. He has bicep swivel. He has double-jointed elbows with some really good travel. He has that swivel hinge swivel with his wrists that they'll swivel around and they'll go in and out. But then you can do this, you can do that, and then they go up and down. Now at the ab here, he has that ab cut that we see a lot of McFarlane figures have, and he has some crunch to it. He can crunch forward a little bit. He can crunch forward way back, which once again is good for a flying figure to get those flying poses out of him. And he has some side to side right there, but he can also twist right there. Now he also has a twist at the waist down here, so that like the whole thing can twist. And he gets some decent side to side, and when you use the waist and the crunch, he can go forward pretty well, but he can really crank back. Alright, now the legs will come up almost exactly at 90, just a little bit down. That may more be the sculpt of the leg than anything else. They'll go forward. They'll go back. They have that swivel joint there to turn the legs. All right. He has double jointed knees that can really get, really close in on themselves. No boot cut. The only thing in the thigh swivel is that hidden joint up here at the hip. no boot cut, ankles go back, ankles go forward, forward facing pin for some rock, and toe articulation. Okay, looking at the Sculpt of Ultraman here, and this is really where McFarlane Toys really shines, is in the sculpt and the paint app of their figures. And we start at the top with the face sculpt. And first of all, check out this windswept hair. I really like the hair. I really like this wash that's in the hair to make the strands stand out. Like, the hair is predominantly black, but you can see a little bit of like either white or gray or something just washed in there to make it stand out a little bit more. And then we have the face sculpt. And I really like this face sculpt, that he still has that lantern jaw, but this looks like a very young, very cocky version of Superman, that if we hold it here next to our Superman from Action Comics 1000, you can see that the head is a little bit smaller, but like I said, he definitely looks younger than Clark over here, and I really like that. Now, before we go any further, I do want to say that my favorite version of Ultraman so far has not been from the comics. It's actually been from the animated movie Crisis on Two Earths. I just like that version of Ultraman. I like how they portrayed Ultraman and how they portrayed the Crime Syndicate in general. And I liked how he had like those gold shoulder pads, and the cape was very regal the way it laid on him. I just liked that whole incarnation of the Crime Syndicate. Now down here we have this big emblazoned U on his chest for Ultraman, obviously paying, tribute to the S on Clark's chest over here. But we don't have any red trunks. We don't really have much red until we get down to these cuts in his boots right there. And this is how he was portrayed in that 6-issue limited series. And truthfully, I can't remember if this is how he looked in previous versions. It's been so long since I've read a Crime Syndicate book, to be completely honest, that I'm pretty sure his original look was basically just Soups, but with a U instead of an S. I'm not 100% certain on that, but I do like how this looks like Superman. It definitely harkens to Superman. You can look at it and be like, yeah, that's a version of Superman, but yet it's not. It's different enough that you know this is also Ultraman, and I really like that. Now, he has like these little silver ovals down here on his trunks, on the sides and on the front. Predominantly that blue, little bit of piping in there, kind of like the armored look of the New 52, and blue boots down here. Like, there's not much to talk about with the paint job, but talking about the sculpt on it, he has really small feet. Like, this is one thing that, like, a lot of McFarlane toys, a lot of McFarlane figures, at least in the DC Multiverse line, tend to do, is they give him these really small feet. And I know Scorpion was like this too from Mortal Kombat. And it's really hard to find like a decent stance with him with these feet, especially when you take into consideration that the detents aren't the best for these figures. They either lean too far back or they lean too far forward, and you kind of have to put them on a halfway point between detents to get them to stand up on their own. Now, taking a look at the cape, of course, the cape is in a motion, sort of like in a action pose kind of deal like we've seen with McFarlane so much. But when it comes to Superman's cape or any version of Superman, I don't mind, because it always has like that flapping in the wind look to it, even when he's drawn in the comics, sort of reminiscent of like a flag blowing in the wind, so that it has this little bit of motion to it. I don't mind that. I kind of dig that, even if it is just off to the side like that. Ultraman comes with only one set of hands, and those are some clenched fists right there, so he can throw down with Soups and the rest of the Justice League. Looking at the accessories, Ultraman comes with his trading card like all of the McFarlane Multiverse figures do. You can see it's Ultraman throwing down with the collect-to-build Starro in the background there. And on the back right here, we have a little bio, a little bit of a write-up of Ultraman, otherwise known as Superman of Earth-3. Like all DC Multiverse figures, he also comes with his own display stand with the DC logo tampoed on the front right there. And we have his piece of the collect-to-build Starro right here, which is the central piece. Obviously, all of the other figures are going to come with the tentacles that come off of Starro. On the back there, we can see that there's really not much going on. There's not going to be much to speak of on the back of Starro once we put them all together. But the front, yeah, I think that's going to look pretty cool. Now, it's obviously not going to be scaled with how big Starro should be, but he still looks like he's going to be a pretty decent sized representation of the Conqueror. And finally, something else that we get is this chest-hugging piece of Starro that you can see the details sculpted in the back here with the suctions on the tentacles, the chomping mouth right there. He has the chest hugger has the main eye and these individual eyes right here, and these tentacles are made to wrap around a figure. Now, in the Suicide Squad movie and in most incarnations of Starro, it's something that wraps around the face. With McFarlane's figures here, this is something that wraps around the chest. And I gotta be honest, I can't remember, and I haven't bothered to pull the comics out, but I can't remember if in the Crime Syndicate miniseries, whether or not... get on there. Get on there. Whether or not they hugged the chest in that, or if they still went for the face. I thought they still went for the face, but I also don't mind that in this version it's just sort of like a chest-hugging thing, because to fit something on the face, that would have been really small, possibly something that we might have lost, and it might have been a little too xenomorphish with the face huggers. I kind of like this, where it just clings to the chest. You can still see the sculpt, you can still see the face of your figure, and it looks good. It honestly looks good. That may be on wrong. Maybe I have to put it on this way, because you can see that just with the way that it clings on there's nothing that snaps onto it. It just sort of clings to the chest of your figure, that it can but like it can wrap onto the chest of your figure in any position. I'm going to be curious to see if other figures, if all the figures coming down the line all have this style of accessory where it's just something that grabs onto the chest of the figure. And now for size comparison, here he is with McFarlane Toys Superman of The Dark Knight Returns and Superman from Action Comics 1000. As we can see, Ultraman, Superman of Earth-3, and Superman from Dark Knight Returns are a little bit taller than the Superman from Action Comics 1000, and I believe that's because it seems like Ultraman may have the legs of the Rebirth Superman. I don't know. I don't have the Rebirth Superman. I wasn't a real big fan of that costume that was just way too much blue. But I think that's, like I said, I think it's on the legs right here, because you can see his waistline is definitely higher. Torso-wise, they look like they should be about the same, but he just looks like he has longer legs. I don't know. Hopefully, we'll get a update to the classic look to put him more in line with the rest of the Supermen that are coming out. Here he is with McFarlane Toys, Batman from Detective Comics 1000, and Rebirth Joker. Rebirth Joker he matches up with pretty well. Batman, it's not too bad. They're shoulder to shoulder. Once again, I think it's all because Batman's head is a little too small. Here he is beside Hasbro G.I. Joe Classified Cobra Commander and Hasbro Marvel Legends Gwenom, because why not? Here he is beside Lanyard Toys Xenomorph Drone and City Hunter Predator. And finally, here he is beside Jazzware's Spartan Collection, Master Chief, and Noble 6. So Superman of Earth-3, otherwise known as Ultraman, is our first figure from the Crime Syndicate. We will be getting the other ones coming down the line. He did this, like I said, with the Batman Beyond series, and I believe the next figure coming up is Superwoman, and I think she's supposed to come out sometime this month, if not the end of this month, then the beginning of next month. I know she's coming up soon. I believe they are Target exclusives, so you can get them there on Target. Ultraman here, Superman of Earth-3, I believe is still for sale on Target's website. I'll put a link to that down below. Now, as far as this figure goes, I really like him. I don't love him, but I like him. I like that he has this younger, cockier look to him. He's almost like the Ultraman version of the New 52 Superman. I wish his feet were a little bit bigger. I'm not going to lie. That's a problem that I feel a lot of McFarlane figures have, is that their feet are just a little too small and they can't get good balance when you're trying to pose them or put them in action poses or whatever without a figure stand. I also wish he came with a different set of hands so that he didn't just have fists, some open hands, maybe some gripping hands, something so that maybe he could get a grip on the Starro that's attached to his chest and he's trying to pull it off. Now, Starro, I think, is fantastic. I like that they went with this chest look, this chest hugger instead of a face hugger. It gives you something bigger to play with. It gives you something bigger that's going to look good on your shelf. And I think you have more that you can do with it. Whereas if it was just like a face hugger type thing like it traditionally is, it would be something small. It may not fit right around a head. And you might have to actually just get a separate head sculpt to make it look right. At least with this chest-hugging thing, you can put this on other figures. It doesn't have to just be Ultraman, which is good because once we get Starro, Starro is deeply entrenched in the DC mythos. I believe he was the first villain fought by the Justice League. The Suicide Squad fought him. And now the Crime Syndicate has fought him. And he's just going to be a good collect-to-build figure. Obviously, he's not going to be to scale, but he's still going to look good. I do still kind of wish that they would have gone with the Crisis on Two Earths version of the Crime Syndicate, but I get why they didn't. This was attached to that mini-series that came out, I believe it was earlier this year, plus there was a two-parter, I think, that was the Battle for Earth-3. I didn't pick that up because there's just, well, too much to read right now. So, I like these guys. I like these figures. I like that this is something different. And as much as I bag on McFarlane doing too much with Batman sometimes, I honestly can't wait to get Owlman. That's going to be cool. So if you're looking for something different, if you're looking for some villains, we look like we're finally getting some villains now because we have the Crime Syndicate coming out. We got Luthor. We got the Reverse Flash. We have some other villains coming out. Zod, I have Zod on order. He'll be coming. So we're finally getting some villains to add to the villain shelf, and nothing is more villain than the Crime Syndicate. So if you're into villains, if you're looking for some bad guys, if you're looking for somebody to square off against Superman before Zod gets here, check out Superman of Earth Prime. Check out Superman of Earth-3. Check out Ultraman. I think this is a really cool addition to the line. And like I said, I can't wait to get the next one. I think it's going to be Superwoman, and I'm really looking forward to getting that. So until we get her, play well, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, thank you for watching.